I've been part of the games industry for nearly 7 years now. Every year, I get questions from students who write me and ask me generic things about art, specific things about the industry, and overall look for insight. I've answered many over the years, and I thought I'll share some of the more interesting questions and my answers with you in this video. Question number 1. Do you have any personal philosophies that impact the way you design or create things? That's an excellent question. My answer would be there are some concepts, ideas, and techniques that I often repeat to myself whenever I create the art that I make. Those are reminders, small mantras really, that keep my process a bit more straightforward and prevent me from hitting blocks too often. Those also improve the quality of the art that I do. The one that my mind immediately goes to the moment you ask this question is the reminder to keep it simple really. Whatever it is you're making, it doesn't really matter. Are you hitting a big challenge or a big problem? Is it perhaps possible that the reason it's so challenging is that you're making the issue bigger than it actually is? Are you empowering it needlessly to take over you? If outside the emotional look over said thing, said piece of art, whatever the current problem in your artwork might be, is there perhaps a practical, more emotionless view that you can deploy that can show you that you're actually striving for something overly complex in this given moment of time? In those moments, take a step back. Look at what you're making and tell yourself, let's slightly simplify. Could whatever I'm making be 30% less large in size? Would that really impact its quality and its magnificence? Its chance to impress or to blow people away? It probably doesn't matter that you're scaling it down. Even if it does, you just slightly cutting back down and taking a step back empowers you to dive in and start improving it. And quite frankly, the end result will most likely be better than if you had bogged yourself down with the overly complex, the overly scaled up. This entire conversation is very similar to the saying of don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Why would you not go for making something good if it meant that if you were instead striving for perfection in the first place, you actually would have stopped entirely yourself in your tracks? You ended up not making anything because your emotional state suffered and you found it all to be too daunting because of the large scale of what you're making. I don't want this to be too abstract, but I do think that it finds its application in every creative journey and task. This advice in general. As such, here are some more concrete examples that I can think of. When learning and getting into your first environment art project, don't go for large open world scenes. Instead, strive for a more reasonable scale and make a small diorama, a bit like what you see actually on the screen behind me. Learn and polish things to the maximum there in the small diorama instead of creating a complex, large scene that was way too large from the get-go. Another one. Texturing and practicing your PBR so it reaches ultra-realistic AAA quality props seen in games like Horizon, Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man and so on. Well, start with a small in physical size prop.
That's new.
Don't go for the biggest prop in the entire world.
Compliments of the Tranquility Cave. All organic, gluten and cruelty-free. That's some next-level spa stuff.
Great.
Practicing your 2D perhaps, away from the 3D stuff that we were mentioning. You want to create a large, impressive canvas that serves like a mural. Very cool, but first start with smaller cuts, smaller sections, refine, learn, see what works there. Then move on to scaling up. Don't scale up from the get-go.
Wonderful.
Making an indie game, stick to niche ideas that provide unique, simple game mechanics where the gameplay loop revolves around that one unique idea. Don't go for making the next big open world, massively multiplayer online game. You can't make the next Elden Ring on your own. You just can't. Question number 2. Do you have any strategies that you use that help you be more efficient or creative when working? That's another amazing question, so let's go into it. I have one vital strategy that helps me be efficient and creative. It keeps me moving forward always. That strategy is to use habits to my advantage. Since I started doing 2D art over 10 years ago now, prior to fully moving to 3D and environment art, I discovered some practices that kept my learning and my exercises for improving in art to be in a very good flow. Those were to keep track in notes and in a calendar. I have a notebook here actually. I keep in a notebook all of the hours and the days that I do art. I have a physical calendar in my room, and when I do an hour or two of personal work in a single day, I write that on a calendar. Or in this notebook, let me find that I have notes about some of my projects, like small things of what to do. And here 2016, you can see, I think this list shows different dates, and at the start before the date there is like I've put 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. This gives me visibility over my habits, over the fact that I've spent lots of days working on something that then actually motivates me. Soon I see that I've hit consecutive days of putting a little bit of work in this calendar. I've already committed emotionally in my mind to not break that streak of consecutive days. Whenever I need a reminder about it, I look at the calendar or the notebook, as I already said. A few days more pass of me doing daily work, and I suddenly realize that I've fallen into the habit of doing the work. Sitting down and working now doesn't really feel like a chore or something I need to put actual effort into. Instead, it just happens. It's very natural. I often break these streaks by taking actual breaks, especially when other life events get in the way, but nonetheless, any given month, my calendar is filled with green pen marks of hours I've done in different days. The days that don't have that happen to be very few. This all that I described helps me know that when I get into a personal project, even when it is not giant in scale, I need to expect a specific amount of weeks I've put daily work into before the project starts to actually shape. Oh my god, these pipes are crazy, probably distracting. I hope not too distracting. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed by the slowness of the process in their art, but good things always take time to shape up. As such, when you've turned things into a daily habit, it's easier not to get scared at the lack of progress. Instead, you keep going and you keep doing what you're doing, and a few days later you get a conscious moment where you tell yourself like, wow, I've really built up quite a bit of progress on this art lately, and you get like a bit of happiness. Next question. What is the usual process that you follow when working on a project? Another excellent question. My work process for any project, be it 3D scene, 2D painting, blueprints, or a game mechanic prototyping, is always start with a healthy amount of research and reference gathering. When I say healthy, I mean big amount. It's a common mistake to start something and not research what you're trying to make or trying to accomplish. If you gather plenty of references and images of what you're striving to create in your head, even without realizing at first, you will start answering some vital questions about the nature of the thing that you're creating. All of that will keep you moving and it will give you a really nice flow. Roadblocks will be fewer if you have done all this research, and thanks to it, you've predicted what challenges there might be in the journey ahead. I think it's a beginner's mistake to think that gathering reference and seeing what has been made out there already will somehow make the thing you're creating less original. That is not the case. Your goal is to take a lot of existing things and mash them up together into something completely novel. But for that to happen, you need to know what is out there in the world already. I've worked at studios in the past where we were prototyping new games. We were kept in perfect vacuum, away from seniors and from anyone who could answer basic questions we had. Higher-ups really thought, and they believed in that case, that this way our ideas will somehow be more original. As a result, unsurprisingly, we struggled, and that was not the case. We failed in a lot of the stuff that we were trying to make. As such, don't struggle needlessly, research, reach out to people, ask questions, learn what is out there already, and then try to find your own spin, your own angle that makes your project unique and original. Question number 3, I believe I might have lost track already. Are there any sources of inspiration for you outside of your current field of work? These days, I mostly navigate the spaces of 3D environment art, tech art, and game prototyping. But as I've revealed a few times already in my answers here so far, my background actually started with years of 2D art and illustration. Thanks to that, I often find myself not really limited to looking at existing 3D art, next generation game releases, or real-world locations and references when it comes to getting inspiration for my 3D spaces. Instead, I actually keep looking at 2D art and paintings, and I often find the beginnings of my 3D art in 2D art. I think that's not something original or unique to me as a person, to be fair. I believe for everyone in our industry, most good 3D art always starts with a strong foundation of 2D art and concept art. Nonetheless, mentioning this, I want to point out one thing that I find myself doing often. I often look at 2D paintings, at Magic the Gathering artwork specifically, and I see ideas and inspirations for gameplay mechanics. There's just something really fun at looking at the card art and imagining what possibilities or ideas it throws your way for translating what you see into a gameplay loop in an indie game, for example. You see the art, you see the mechanics of the card in the TCG context, and you wonder, how would that morph if I were to make it in 3D, isometric, or maybe a third-person camera? In a hack and slash genre, perhaps? It's a lot of fun. I think in Hearthstone, for example, one can see the opposite direction done by the developers. They take Warcraft lore or World of Warcraft concepts, spells, ideas, and other stuff, and they see how they could morph them into a card game. I really love all of that. I find it very intriguing and very inspirational. Is your creative process the same when working on personal projects and industry projects, or are there differences? I would say that the two processes overlap in very extensive ways. I start with reference gathering, I move on to block out and sketches. From there, once it's established, once I know what I'm making, I move on to refinement and polishing. The one crucial difference that I could point out is freedom. In my personal work, I get to do exactly what I want all the time. In my professional work at Rebellion, for example, I am given tons and tons of freedom, but nonetheless, whatever I'm making needs to adhere to the work from everyone else on the project. As such, at moments, I need to refine what I'm making towards a shape that might be slightly different from what I would personally do, and more towards what fits into the current project. This, by the way, can be anything between art style, visuals, genre, gameplay, level design needs, technical limitations, when it comes to geometry shaders, and so on. That was a very long list. The needs of the game, of the project, the gameplay, they always come first. I don't find everything we mentioned so far limiting in any way, to be fair. I find it empowering, challenging in a fun way, and ultimately immensely creative. I feel very lucky to be working on the type of projects that I do, both at work and in my personal time. And I would have never predicted that I would work on this stuff back when I was a kid, just daydreaming. Cool, I think that's it. The battery is nearly running out, so we kind of like measured everything perfectly. If you've been enjoying this so far, please make sure to subscribe and to comment in the video. That would help me immensely. If you have other questions similar or completely different to what we went over, please drop them in the comment sections. I will make sure to answer you and to help you out however I could. If you liked this video, please consider taking a look at the rest of the videos in my channel. Right now I just finished this that you can see in the background. And I have 3 video devlogs talking about the process behind creating the art for that. I think you might find that enjoyable. I also have some tutorials in blueprints, art, VFX and stuff like that in Unreal. Everything is free, just consider subscribing and checking it out in my channel. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this and see you next time. If you liked this, is always start with a healthy amount of research and reference gathering with a healthy amount